Bobby's full.
Your name. It's your interview.
Oh, Robert Marchand, February 2/27/21.
Yeah, 2/27/21.
That's my birthday, is 2/27/21.
Okay.
I was born in 1921.
Now, could you tell me the war and the branch of service that you were in?
Infantry, the first 102nd Infantry Division. The second was 1st Infantry Division. When I was transferred into England from here,
Okay.
I changed division from 102nd to the 1st.
Okay. Now, what was your rank?
PFC.
And where did you serve?
What was I what?
Where did you serve?
Where?
Yes.
Well, when I was drafted, I went to Texas. When I left Texas, I went to England. In 1940, well, I forget now.
It's fine. Moving on.
Well, whatever.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I was drafted.
Where were you living at the time that you were drafted?
What was I?
Where were you living at the time you drafted?
I was born and lived in Berlin, New Hampshire, until I was drafted.
How old were you when you were drafted?
Well, I was born in 1921. I was drafted in 1940, 43. 1943 when I was drafted.
Do you recall your first days when you were in service?
No, I can't. I don't remember. I don't remember the date that I was drafted.
Do you recall your first days in service, though? What it was like when you first were drafted?
I had no idea what I was getting into, but I did go into the infantry. But they didn't prepare us for anything. Just drafted and then trust to luck what division you'd go into. So I went to the 102nd Infantry Division. That's where I took basic training. That was in Texas.
In Texas? Could you tell me a little bit about your boot camp and training experiences in Texas?
I was lost.
Lost? What?
I didn't have any idea what I was getting into.
How long was your basic training?
Basic training was 13 weeks.
13 weeks.
Then I was more into what I was doing and what I was doing it for.
Do you remember any of your instructors?
No, the sergeants, the sergeant that I had, I don't remember names. I remember the captain's name, the commanding officer, Captain Ichrist.
Ichrist?
Ichrist. Don't ask me his first name. We never did call him. We call him Captain Ichrist.
How did you get through boot camp?
Actually, with no problem. Just the tough training, but I was young, so I could take it. I could take the tough, the walks, the long walk, and basic training, shooting the rifle, target practice and whatnot. But nothing exceptional.
Now, again, which war did you serve in again?
Second World War.
And where exactly did you go?
I went to near Amarillo, Texas for basic training.
And then from
I
Amarillo?
left there. Don't ask me the date. I left there and I went to Boston and took a boat to overseas. There I joined a different division.
Which division did you join from?
First Infantry Division.
And that was while you were in Boston?
No, when I landed in England,
Okay.
I was assigned to a division then.
Now from England, where did you go?
That was a tough one. June 6, 1944. First day in France. On the shores of France, across the Channel. And D-Day, that was D-Day in France, in the in the World War against Germany. From there, I was an interpreter for the company captain.
You were an interpreter?
The interpreter, because I spoke French fluently.
Do you remember specifically arriving and what it was like?
Well, you mean the daytime?
Yeah, when you first arrived off the boat. Like, was it rainy? Was it cold?
No, it was kind of cool, but it wasn't unbearable.
Now, you said you were an interpreter. Was that your job assignment, or did you have other job assignments as well?
No, that was the assignment when I got there, when I got in England.
Was there other job assignments that you had besides that?
An infantryman. I was the 1st Infantry Division.
Do you remember any of the assignments that you did for the interpreting?
Just when I got into France,
Yeah.
to talk to the French people, they couldn't understand an American that spoke French.
Yeah.
They says, "You gotta come from Canada." I said, "I don't. I came from New Hampshire," and I spoke only French then. And I finally got them to understand that I could speak French because I was born that way. Yeah.
How did they react when you spoke French to them? Were they,
Surprised, unbelievable, but after we got to talk for a while, they believed that I could that I could do the French language pretty good. Of course, in New Hampshire, we used to, if a word was a little bit too hard to do French out of, you use a word of English.
Yeah.
in the sentence. We still do live when we speak French. We do mix a word of English here and there when it's easier to make the conversation.
Now, did you grow up speaking French, or is that something that you learned in school?
I was born that way.
You were born.
Born to a French. My mother had 11 kids, and they all spoke French. My father died when he was 44 years old. That was before the war. He died just before the war started.
Now, did you see combat when you were over there in England?
We were on front lines all the way.
Were there many casualties in your unit?
There was some, but not an awful lot. A lot of some, like I said, some, but not an exceptional lot. We were fortunate, but still we were front lines. The biggest part of it came on D-Day, when we landed.
That's when you saw the most
The
casualties?
first waves took a beating. There was a lot of casualties on the first day. But after that, when we started moving, we had other outfits that came in alongside of us, and that relieved us of some of the difficulties that we had.
Now, could you tell me about a couple of your most memorable experiences?
Non-war,
As in when you were overseas in the war?
I can't remember of any particular instances, because I was with the captain all the way, all the time.
What was that like?
That was not a big problem because we had a good captain, an understanding man. Well, we had after we had been in France for 2 or 3 days, we were assembled with the company headquarters, and the first sergeant took says you and you get your packs on, so you're going on patrol.
Right.
The captain says to the first sergeant, says, "Where is he going?" He says, "He's going on patrol with the rest of them." I said, "No, he's not. He's my interpreter, so he's not leaving me." That patrol never came back.
Wow.
They ran into problems and they never came back. So the captain saved my life that time. I was safe for me from at least getting taken as a prisoner, because the other guys never showed up again.
A lot of those guys became prisoners of war.
They ended up as prisoners of war. They were relieved of their captivity once we got moved further into France, because the Germans were leaving France in a hurry.
Now, were you ever a prisoner of war?
No. That's as close as I came to it when during that time when the captain says no, he's not going.
Now, from France, where did you go after France?
Belgium.
Belgium. What was that like?
But that was with the same outfit. So we went from France, we crossed into Belgium, and then we ran into a snowstorm in Belgium. That's where I froze my feet. I went to the hospital. I wasn't going to. We were in a barn at that time. Captain says, "You're going to the hospital." I said, "For what?" He said, "For your feet." So I went to a hospital in Liège, Belgium. From there, I was a couple of days, and I asked, they were going to discharge me from the hospital. I asked, "Can I stay for another day or two so I can get the feeling back in my feet, a little bit of..." So the medical serviceman says, "Wait a minute." So he went and he got a captain doctor. Doctor looked at my feet, put the blanket back on, and took off. Never said a word. First thing you know, they come with a wheelchair to wheel me out, to bring me to the hospital, send me to a hospital. I ended up in a hospital in France on Christmas night, Christmas Eve. But I only stayed there a couple of days. Then I went into a hospital in England, and from there I stayed only a few days. They put me on a boat back home.
Were you awarded any medals or citations?
You know what?
Were you awarded any medals or citations?
No, so the one thing that I got, they sent that through the mail several days after I was discharged. They sent that,
The Bronze Star?
the Bronze Star. They sent the Bronze Star. I received it by mail.
And you did it. Did you know you were getting it?
I didn't know I was getting it. I didn't know for what. I still don't know for what, really. It doesn't specify.
So you don't know why they gave it to you?
I've got a pretty good idea. When we were, I think we're still in France, we got to an area where there was a whole company of tanks parked in the woods, and the captain says, park here to the first sergeant, park the company here, we're going to go on patrol. So the captain and I went on patrol on our own, just the two of us, up a dirt road for close to a mile from the area that the company was parked.
All right.
So when we got to a certain point, the captain says, can you find your way back? I think I can. Go get the company, bring them up here. So I went back, and I wasn't lost. I mean, I remember just exactly where they were stopped. I told the first sergeant, the captain is waiting for us, let's go. He said, no, wait a minute. You came back alone. The captain is still up there. Do I believe that he's all right, or is he taken prisoner? No, he's not a prisoner. He's waiting for us. Well, he says, you go first. So we went out on that road. When he got within I would say a shouting distance of the captain, the first sergeant says, we'll park here. You go get the captain and have him motion us that it's safe to go. So I had to go back up to the captain and told him. He says, you're alone. He says, what happened? They didn't come with you? I said, they're right down the road. You'll see the sergeant in the road. So he stood out in the road and he motioned to him to come on over. And as far as I know from any other experiences that I had, I would think that would be the one that got me that medal. But I wouldn't say for sure. But I think that was about the toughest part of it all.
That's quite the story. How did you stay in touch with your family when you were overseas?
By mail.
By mail?
Letters. And
Did you write a lot of letters back home, or did you not have a chance too much to do it?
did I have a what?
Did you have a lot of chances to write back home?
Yeah, then we weren't stopped from writing letters if we needed to. So I wrote letters to my mother once in a while, maybe a couple of times a month.
Did she ever?
Yeah.
Now, did she write back? Were you able to receive them?
I got some money, some mail back. Yes. How often I can't tell how often offhand, but once in a while I get a letter from her, from my mother, or from some of the older persons in the family.
What was the food like?
Hmm.
What was the food like?
The food was good. I mean, a lot of it was a C ration, a K ration, but when we had hot meals, they were good hot meals. Not too often, but before we went going overseas, there was all K ration and C ration overseas. No hot meals. The only hot meals I got is once I got out when I got in the hospital. Did
you have plenty of supplies?
plenty of supplies.
Supplies like ammunition and
Oh yeah, we weren't limited to any amount.
what about your clothes?
I didn't have to use my rifle hardly any at all. I was not in a position to use the rifle. When we got to a point where we had to fight the enemy, the captain sent the regular soldiers on with their commander.
Did you feel pressure or stress at all?
No, well, I felt I've got to go by what the captain wants. I had to listen to him. Nobody else, even the first sergeant, couldn't give me any orders. So the orders for me came from the captain.
So you only received direct orders from the captain, and that was it.
How was that?
You received direct orders from the captain, and that was it.
I always did, yes. Nobody else. I was responsible. I was his responsibility, and he let them know too that I was not to do anything that he didn't agree on.
And he was very respectful to you. And
He
took
was.
care of you?
He was very, very gentle with anything that he ordered me to do or that he asked me to do. He was very gentle about it. He was a good man.
Yeah. Was there anything special you did for good luck?
Not really.
How did people entertain themselves over there?
But once in France, we didn't get no entertainment. There was some in England. There were groups that performed singing and whatnot.
So they were entertainers?
What was that?
There were entertainers over there? The singing, you said?
There was some, but we never saw them. We weren't in a position to be entertained anyways.
Did you have any leave time?
While in England, yes. While once we got into France, no, we didn't. We were under orders not to go nowhere, not to do anything with anybody.
What did you do when you were on your leave in England?
We went to a movie or whatever. Very little, because the leaves weren't long. They weren't days on end. I mean, they were just a few hours here and there.
Mm-hmm. Did you do any other traveling while you were in the service?
No, not without. The only traveling we did was when we go on training of some kind, and go by truck or whatever, or we walked. That we did walk. The infantry walked.
You did a lot of walking?
We did a lot of walking, but at our age, I mean, we could take it. They weren't bothered.
Do you recall any particularly humorous or an unusual event?
Not really.
Were there any pranks that you or others would pull on each other?
Was there what?
Any pranks that you or others would pull on each other out of humor or to pass the time?
We had one kid that could sing cowboy songs. Boy, but he would not go public in any way at all, but he was good.
Yeah?
He was a good singer. I would say he could have been a professional.
So he used to sing all the time, just for fun?
He used to sit in the barracks
Yeah?
and sing to a group of us. We'd sit around him and he'd play his guitar and sing.
Wow.
But that was it. He would not go public for any reason at all otherwise.
What did you think of officers or fellow soldiers?
We had a group. We had officers. We had I think it was 5 lieutenants and 1 captain.
Mm-hmm.
They were all good Joes. I mean, they were very understandable for anything that might happen. They were good. They were good for training us too.
Did you keep a personal diary?
No, that I never did.
Do you recall the day your service ended?
No, I don't recall that. I wasn't. So I came back from England on a medical retreat, medical attention. I had a case of trench feet, and
Now, from England, where did you go on the medical boat? Where did they take you?
New York.
New York?
We landed. I'll tell you an experience that we had.
Sure.
We were on the boat
Uh-huh.
coming across. All of a sudden, we get close to the mainland. The boat went that way. So it came over the PA system, please, half of you go the other way or else you'll go swimming. What they were watching, looking at is the Statue of Liberty. We were going right by the Statue of Liberty and everybody wanted to see that. But they almost tipped the boat over at that time.
So they had everybody go
They had
on the other side.
half of the other side that belonged to the other side, they had them go back to their barrack, to their rooms.
The boat was actually tipping?
That boat was actually going over sideways.
Wow.
Not an exceptional lot, but enough to be warned about it.
Yeah. Now, did you go right to a hospital when you were in
I went
New
to a
York?
hospital, and from New York I went to a hospital in North Carolina.
And how long did you stay there for?
Just a few weeks, and then I got my discharge from there.
Do you remember the date or the approximate time?
44, around in 45. No, sometime in 1945.
And from North Carolina, where did you go?
Home.
And home was
in New Hampshire.
in Berlin, New
Berlin, New Hampshire.
Now, after you got home,
And I met her.
you met your wife there?
They lived, the house, the street, and their house, directly across the street from ours. So they introduced me to her, and then I dated her several times, and then we got married. That was 65 years ago now.
Now, what did you do the days and the weeks after you were discharged when you were back home?
I went looking for work. Worked in the paper mill, the Brown Company paper mill.
So you
But
ended up,
not for long.
so you started at the Brown Company paper mill?
Yeah.
What did you do there?
I was working what they call the rough wood department. The wood that would come across take the bark out, debarking
Yeah.
in the tanks. And when it came off on a conveyor, I was in that hole there to take out the pieces that weren't debarked enough. And that was my job as a debarker.
How long did you do that for?
Oh, no, this. How long do you don't know, huh? No, I don't know. Maybe a couple of years at the most.
And what did
Because
you,
we got married about a year after I got out in 46. 46, huh? Yeah. We got married in 46. I worked for a little while, then we decided to come down to Connecticut.
so from the wood mill, after that job, you ended up moving to Connecticut after that?
Yeah,
And what did-
I left the company and we came down and got jobs down here. The first jobs we got down here was a Royal typewriter.
A typewriter.
Royal typewriter.
What does that entail? What do you do with
That's
that?
on Park Street. It was on Park Street in Hartford. She couldn't speak a word of English. When she got in that department, there was nobody spoke English. It was all French people.
Wow.
French from Park Street in Hartford. Park Street was all French in Hartford then.
This was in the late 40s?
Late 40s, early 50s. Yeah.
Then how long did you work there for?
Oh, how long did I work to her typewriter? I went to Hamilton Standard
6 years.
maybe a couple of years. I'd say a couple of years there.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went to work for Hamilton Standard, which was part of United Aircraft.
What did you do there?
Well, when I applied for the job, the interviewer told me, he says, you know, he says, we're moving to Windsor Locks. They had a brand new plant built in Windsor Locks. And I was well, they called it a blade bender. After the blade was made, I would balance it. And in order for it to balance one way or the other, I'd put it on a machine that would twist it to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did for a few years.
And what did you do after that?
That's when I went to the radiator shop. Yeah, I looked for rent to do radiator repairs, and I stayed there for 20 years as a radiator repairman, myself and one of my sons. Then I retired. But I was there. I was in the radiator shop for 20 years.
And that's where you retired from?
That's where I retired from. That's how from there we bought, well, at that time, we bought that house in 61. We bought this house in 61 and we're still here. I never worked a regular job otherwise after that. After I sold the shop. I started it in 61 and I sold it in 81.
And where was the shop that you had, the radiator shop?
373 Main Street, Manchester.
Oh, it was in Manchester.
And this is the way it stood. I used to go help different people here and there, but I never did another job.
Did you make any close friendships while you were in the service?
Friendship, but not close enough to want to stay with them. But they were good people that I associated with. But most of them were from down south.
Okay.
There were just a few of us from the northern part of the States.
Did you join any veterans organizations?
Yeah, well, American Legion, huh? I belong to American Legion.
DAV.
Uh-huh. And the DAV. Disabled American Veterans. So
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
I was hoping that one would never happen again. But I was too old then to be drafted if there was.
Now you said you were in a couple veterans organizations. What kind of activities does your poster association have?
Well, the American Legion, whatever. DAV, I don't remember. I don't recall if they had anything or not.
Did you attend any unions or reunions after the war?
No, I never. I didn't bother. Well, I didn't know anybody around.
Now, how did your service and experiences affect your life?
Well, I'll tell you, I did. I enjoyed, to a certain extent, I enjoyed that life because I met a lot of nice people, nice young guys my age. But none of them were from this area hardly, so I didn't go down south to meet any of them. So it stayed that way. I never wrote to them, they never wrote me.
You guys just kind of went your own ways after the war?
Yeah, well, I made my own life after that. And when I got out, that's about what I did. I went to work and for a living and got married and came down here and worked on here. I did the business that I had, the radiator shop, for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Is there anything you would like to add that we haven't covered in the interview?
Not that I think of, huh? There's nothing special that.
Okay. Well, that's it for the interview. I really appreciate your
I
time.
would say that was about it.
Was there any other experiences or any stories that you wanted to share? Or anything? That's wide open if you wanted to add anything.
Not that I know of, huh? There's nothing we can add to it.
What do you remember?
No, I don't think. I mean, we raised a family, and they're all good people. 2 boys and a girl. The girl was just here,
Yeah.
and the 2 boys are working.
It was an exciting place
Yeah.
because we're the only one that had a place for parties. So all the
Okay.
families would come.
So this was the fun house.
And we are, to a certain extent, we get along good with the family.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's it for the interview. I want to thank you for your time and your service for the
I
country.
want to thank you for taking the time.
Anytime, it's my pleasure. And that's it for the interview.
Good.
I'm going to turn that off and then I'll get your microphone off.
Now this is why. Oh, it's still on?